Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to the worst comment section ever. Welcome to another episode of In the Comments. And usually I discuss the past 2 weeks worth of commentary of things that are problematic. But after the video that I made about Dave Chapelle, I want to note the only other comment section that I had like this was on a video that I did months ago when I did a video on Black queer erasure. Common theme here. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, I talked about how Malcolm X, prior to him going to jail, being introduced to the nation, he was doing sex work. And so there's much speculation amongst scholars that he was bisexual. But I got a lot of hate from cishet black men. This video is disappointing for multiple reasons because all I saw throughout the comments was this willful ignorance, this blind spot that occurs when talking about other marginalized groups, this sort of selective need to discuss anti-blackness when it only benefits the whole of the community or a perspective that only the broader aspect of the community can understand. So that was disappointing to me. It felt like a lot of y'all didn't watch my whole video because y'all said things that I said to make my points, to make your points, and it just wasn't really making sense or lining up, and we're going to get into those comments today. It was also just disappointing to see because I said specifically y'all want to prop up black heroes instead of allowing valid critique, and what I saw in the comments was an attack on a black woman who was bringing attention to these topics because y'all don't like to see us criticized by us publicly. But it's not like social media can be private for black people. We don't like necessarily make spaces for that. Why not offer critique of one another on a public stage so the people that need to be affirmed by this critique can feel like their concerns are being visible and not ignored and not pushed to the side. So let's see, Morg Verde. She said, I usually agree with everything you post, but I think you reached a bit and did this video for views because this was popping in the news right now. Why must everyone be some type of phobic if they don't agree with someone's lifestyle? So it's not a lifestyle, it's not a choice, like it's a life. It's a person who lives a life with specific experience. It's not a lifestyle. Like a lifestyle is the type of materialistic things that you have, like not your necessarily identity. The idea that I did something for views because this was popping right now, every Thursday I wait to see what the most relevant topic is for the community in which I serve. There is no shortage of things that I can talk about on any Friday, but I always wait until Thursday to figure out what is the most pertinent, what is the most relevant, what is the thing that most people need to hear about. And so that's what I did. But I want to make sure that people know that when they come to my page, it's not a page where I'm spouting off on ideas because I'm angry, because I'm upset, because I just want to rant about things. I pick topics that highlight problematic things that are still happening in our communities that I feel like folks need to be educated and provided a new perspective on. And that's what I did this week like I do any other week. People are saying trans folks are stretching their arguments, and I'm going to get into this later, when they're talking about what Dave Chapelle said, or even people say that what I'm saying is a stretch, but every week I analyze, I elaborate, I go into detail, and I point out the implications of what things mean for black people. It's just in this situation when we're talking about LGBTQ people and trans women in particular, it becomes an issue for everybody else. A runway tycoon says, "This is why you're single." It's a ring on my finger. Baby! Runway tycoon said, "This is why I'm single."
Who was runway tycoon?
Somebody on the internet. I have a guest on today's show. I didn't want to be the primary person talking about this because this is not necessarily my community, and we as black people do not like when white people try to take the mic and speak for us. They want to give us a platform, so I've actually invited my good friend Hope Giselle to come on and talk with me today. People take the word phobia like well-meaning white people take the word racism. And this is what I mean. Well-meaning white folks, when they hear someone call them racist, they're like, oh, well, I'm not being violent. I'm not saying I don't like you guys. There are just certain things about this that I think to be true, and there are certain stereotypes that I think you guys fulfill in a certain way, and there are just certain things I don't want around my kids, or certain people I don't want influencing my children because of how it contributes to the ghetto, or whatever. We can see microaggressions from a long shot and call them out to be racist when we're talking about women and white folks. When we talk about transphobia, we use it in the same capacity that is transferable to the way we talk about race. So it's not always like, oh, I'm scared of trans women, or I hate trans women, or I would pull my child away from a trans woman. That's not just what we're talking about. We're talking about snide remarks that are microaggressive to trans communities, and I think people can understand that. So we're gonna hop into the rest of these comments with Hope. So she's gonna come in right about now. Hey everybody, welcome my beautiful guest. I am Hope Giselle. She is one of my Insta friends. She is a fellow social activist. She does far more in the activist realm than I do. You know, my beat is focusing on education, but I definitely want to invite her in on this conversation because as a cis woman, this is not necessarily my realm. I'm an ally. I'm a voice. I'm a sounding board for your community, and I just didn't want this to be something that I was taking the lead on because we don't like when white people speak to black people, and we're just going to keep that tea rolling. The first video that went viral is when I first spoke about Black queer erasure, and I'm just kind of wondering what the themes are here when a cis Black woman speaks for Black queer folk. What is the violence coming from? Like what is the hate? Where is that source? So I don't get it. You probably have a far better understanding than I do. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around, but we're just going to get into what these folks had to say this week. So I just want to start with this one. This one comes from Just Debonair, and it says, I think we missed this week, sis. And I'm going to pause there because every week I get comments saying, oh, she don't miss. And I do miss, because there are times where I will misstate numbers. Sometimes I'll misstate names and facts, and I'll go and correct myself. And so I always respond, yeah, girl, I do miss. That's a lot of pressure. And I'll let them know, like, you can't always take my word for law. Go look it up for yourself. Like, that's the point of these things. You get 3.5 minutes of content. I don't expect to be able to tell you everything in the world. But I miss the moment I speak on something completely that does not cater to the folks that have been following me. You know, so I think our interpretation of missing is off there. But I'll continue. As a Black gay man who has consistently been silenced by white gays and white trans gays, Dave spoke words we have been repeating in our community for decades. The trans women of color who sparked Stonewall are written out of the movement or recategorized as bisexual cross-dressers. White gays do have a history of being a minority when convenient and being white female when convenient. And what actually harms Black trans women is when the alleged trans community will rely on Black pain and not on Black greatness unless it is a show on VH1. White trans are not out here yelling the names of the Black trans victims that so many claim are the victims of what Black people say. And that's much more telling than the Black folks who cape for the white supremacist narratives of hiding behind Chapelle's words to cloak themselves in Christian ideals.
What he did say are some of the things that as Black queer people as a whole, right, whether we be trans, gay, bisexual, lesbian, or indifferent, we've been trying to put y'all up on game for years. We've been trying to tell y'all for years that the white gays and, the Black queer LGBT folk are not aligned in a lot of ways. And just because we are queer, it doesn't take from or remove the fact that we're also Black people. And so when they, said that white gay person in that bar or that white trans person in that bar weaponized their whiteness when the police got there, this isn't new to us. Because when we're in queer arguments and the police pull up, they're white, right? It doesn't matter how much of a flaming queen they are. It doesn't matter how much of a non-passable or non-traditionally cis-looking person that they are. If the police pull up and they are white, it is still very much so the white and the Black situation. Why does it take a biological Black male to get on stage and use the comedy, right, of who y'all think we are to make the point that we are still Black when we've been telling you this? In fact, when y'all tell us this, whenever we get into these conversations, it's like, you're Black first. But you forget that when we're having these conversations and when we're having this exact, thing. A lot of y'all are saying, like, you missed the point. Like, Dave mentioned that. No, you're missing the point, right? And the point is that this special hits differently for Black people because we are Black. Because Dave's audience is mostly Black. Which is why I'm not buying this whole, well, he had a friend and you missed it. My best friend is Black, but I'm white and I'm still racist. Hello, how you doing? What's going on, right? Some of the same arguments are being used to oppress us. Some of the same things that we're seeing in these comment sections are some of the same things and some of the same that white folks use when they're talking about or trying to scapegoat out of ways to be racist. My friend is black. It's the same thing that Dave did at the last 37 minutes of that show. He used Daphne's legacy to reel y'all in, right? Pretended to almost cry for the sake of empathy of people who don't understand that he's still talking about a person who benefits from privilege, who can laugh at those jokes because she doesn't have to, go back to the space where the Daves are. She doesn't have to go back to the space where she's going to be dealing with the Devontaes and the Trayvons and all these people who have a different sort of mindset around this are going to be dealing with. And she also doesn't have to deal with the fact that the laws that are being, passed affect her differently. Yes, these laws are happening and a lot of people are saying, oh, well, y'all got the right to X, Y, and Z. But those things don't trickle down first. Those things sit up there, up in that atmosphere, and we sit back waiting on the rain to fall, hoping that it'll get to us. And usually by the time that they actually give us access, they go and repeal it and put something else in place that we can't benefit from either. And so as Black people as a whole, right, before we get into the queerness, as Black people, we know how the system works against us at all times. And so I don't understand that. I don't understand how somehow you all think that when we, accept our queerness and accept who we are for ourselves, that we start to benefit from white, privilege and white culture, because that's simply not true. In fact, it's worse, because if it's one thing that people, on that side hate worse than Black people, it's queer people. And so when you're Black and queer, oh my God, you might as well go ahead and have stuff for them, because that's what they're going to do. And especially when they know that they have allies within the Black community who are willing to agree with them on that thing, if nothing else. And so the beatdown is almost worse.
So Minions Auntie said, the baby shoots and kills a Black man in Walmart. Nothing bad happens to career. He actually becomes more famous. Fast forward to his ill-fated performance, during which he made negative statements about the LGBT community. Cancel culture kicks in. He didn't kill anyone that time. He made a nasty comment, and people were willing to destroy him over it. Y'all are proving Dave Chapelle right with these videos. The baby faced backlash primarily because white trans people were offended. His point is intersectionality only matters when it benefits or offends white people. And I'm going to wait on the end of that comment. But I just want to remind people, he hurt someone trying to hurt him and his child. Period. It's got nothing to do with him making horrific comments that I think, I'm not going to even say far worse, but he made horrific comments without any type of remorse about it.
No basic.
Like that was the issue. Like, and not even provoked. In the first instance, he was provoked and made a valid response. In this instance, he was not provoked and just spewed hate. So yes, we're going to hold him accountable for that. We don't have nothing to say about him shooting somebody and killing them because it was self-defense.
Period.
And so I don't understand how you think that's relevant. I'm not even sure why Dave included the baby in his special.
Because, once again, like you mentioned earlier, there is this acceptance that comes with that. There's a lineage, right, that comes with that. There's a correlation that comes with that. And he needed to tie everybody into this, right? Well, some people don't, some people are like, oh, Muhammad Ali, yes, I understand that. Respectable man, right? The baby is that for some of these guys. And he needed to be able to pull everybody in.
Yeah.
And that was how he did it. Because for the ignorant guys of the new generation, right, they may not understand Cassius Clay. Some of them might not even understand that was Muhammad Ali's name. There was a reason why that context was left out. And it's because it wasn't for y'all to actually think, right? Because the context would have given y'all something to think about.
I said in my video, the end of this person's comment says that y'all missed the joke and Dave Chapelle probably knew this would happen. And you guys are affirming exactly what I said in the video when I said Dave Chapelle has created a reputation for himself so that his word and his methods seem infallible to the common man who is not going to think harder than Dave Chapelle. People are simply repeating what he's saying without offering any context themselves. These people don't have any original arguments because they think that what he's given is gold all by itself, and that's just not the case. Just like I can't give you everything about a topic in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, he cannot give you everything about a topic. And also, his job is not to educate. His job is not to present unbiased information. His job is to make you laugh. His job is to exaggerate. So if you know that, I'm confused as to why you think repeating specific lines like we didn't all watch it is going to make us think any differently because you're not saying anything different. You're just regurgitating the rhetoric he already fed you.
Because there are some times when I even have to get some of my cis allies together about the things that they agree with without understanding the context. Prime example, I was on TikTok last week. And one of my favorite creators, she's a cis black lesbian woman. You know, she was going hard in the paint for one of the trans girls, you know, who posted a video about how she had been, she had experienced transphobia at Sonic. And in the clip of the video, at first glance, you know, the clip that she used, and she was like, this is a trans woman going through, you know, transphobia at Sonic, like, da-da-da-da. She made great points. The video was awesome. But something told me, Hope, go look at the full, go see if the trans girl has a full video.
Okay.
And to my surprise, she did. The one that the black lesbian cis woman saw was the end of the situation. But I was lucky enough that the trans woman uploaded the full situation. And the full situation was employees were transphobic. The manager came over and was very polite for a cis man of color. He came over, he tried to diffuse the situation. He used the proper pronouns. It was about a good, like, back and forth exchange for about 6 minutes, 2 videos. And it wasn't until that third video, after this trans woman had made the biggest deal and got on his last everlasting nerve, and then had the nerve to ask this man, after you've already triggered him and pissed him off, what do you think I look like? His response was, well, you look like a man to me. But this was after 6 minutes of saying, miss and ma'am, I will deal with my staff. That is wrong. I don't know why they would do that to you. I'm sorry. I apologize. And the only part of that video that went viral out of the 3 that she posted was the one where he said that. And he gave her attitude. And I was like, see, I'm with everybody when they're right. And she wasn't right. There is no agenda to push. I want people to be treated fairly. And at the end of the day, if you take your trans behind up there and you get in somebody's face and you get in somebody's business and then they read you your rights, however they read you your rights is your business. Because people are only going to be, you know, PC for so long. And I think that we can all understand human response, which is, it's only so long I'm going to let you get slick with me before I get slick back with you. In the comments, the people were windmilling me. Hope, you're a trans woman. How could you? Did you see the videos that I saw? Because you should go back and watch them.
I always pin a comment that's going to be like the most asked question, and I give my response and I leave it. But someone comes underneath it inevitably and says, it's a tearing down of our black leaders and figureheads for me. And again in the video, I said, some of you only want black heroes. And that's literally what you're saying. So I think that goes for any community. We want to always heroify our figures. We always want to martyr the people that have been hurt. But we have to hold everybody accountable in the way in which they do things. Racism, transphobia, any type of homophobia, ableism, any type of superiority complex that is being challenged, those areas can too be manipulated. And we have to be responsible if we are asking to be treated fairly.
The way that Dave said that, you know, he misses the Stonewall gays. What I heard was people who miss the gays that were willing to be doormats for the sake of safety. Stonewall gays were resilient people. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and Stormy, those were resilient ass trans women. Right? And so when we talk about Stonewall gays, we're not talking about them in the sense of people who were just willing to do whatever. But when Dave was talking about Stonewall gays, he was talking about the gays that were willing to shut up and take it. The gays that knew their place was, you know, before 12, you know, after 5 kind of moment. Like, he knew what it meant to live in a world where gay people would allow for you to say what you wanted to say and there was no consequence, because the consequence for them was you would find out where their club was and you would burn it down and nobody would care. You would find their spot in the park and you would go and dump them and nobody would care. You would find out where they worked and you would spill their tea and nobody would care, right? Those queers and those gays and those trans people weren't docile and silent because there was a respect. Those people were docile and silent and quiet because there was no protection. And so for the same reason that a lot of black folks were silent after slavery was over and well into segregational years, wasn't because there was just respect for the white man.
People are going to be so dismissive of this entire conversation. I want those folks to take inventory about how they turn their ears off when you analyze something Dave Chapelle said and give it bigger meaning. But those are the same people that come to my page every week to hear me take a statement and analyze and show the bigger meaning for our community. They don't want to hear it when it comes from you because they think that you're dragging it or it's a stretch or you're going too far. That's not what he said. But what about when I do it? What about when I talk about the implications of a thing and you ride for it because it benefits black cis women or benefits black cis people? I'm so grateful to have had this conversation with you. I'm grateful that you were able to take time. Forgive me. I'm rolling out the bed after traveling. You look bomb. We'll do this again sometime. Stay posted. If you want to see this full conversation, you can see it on my Facebook page for subscription for $4.99. If you follow Hope and you want to see this full conversation, we'll send it to her for her to put on her Patreon and any other subscription links that she has. All right, everybody. See you next time. All right, y'all. So thank you once again for sitting with us for this episode of In the Comments. I'm so grateful to have had Hope on to discuss these things with us and like share her voice and share her talent and share her experiences. And if you want to see the full conversation, which I highly suggest you do because this is such an intricate topic and we weren't even able to get into everything in this hour because you could never, come on my Facebook page. It's $5 a month. Look at the whole video. All right, y'all. Have a good day. And like Miss Tab say, if you can't have a good day, and that's what it is, Dave. If you can't have a good day, don't you dare go ruin nobody else's. All right, I'm done. It's been a long episode. We out of here.